All right, it's time for Political Roundtable, Mainland 98.3 FM. This is the show where we look at the major issues in the political space. And today, a lot happened during the week. And I think for all political watchers, major political actors, analysts, again, I'm getting updates that Governor Fubara has sworn in the 23 elected local government chairman. Thank you so much, Tᴏɪᴛᴛᴇʀ, for giving me that update. Well, Rivers politics dominated the airwaves. It was the major issue, the back and forth from the governor to the courts, the IG of police to the loyalist of Wike. It's been quite, some would say disturbing, some would say intriguing. There are discussing today, and that's Atiku's proposal of a 6-year single-term rotational presidency. And basically, we're going to be asking ourselves, is that a brilliant proposal from the former vice president, this idea of 6-year single-term rotational presidency? Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, the former vice president, of course, the presidential candidates of the PDP in the large general elections have been very, very busy. He's been very vocal. He's been very active, really, as a voice of opposition politics in Nigeria. He's also been talking in recent time as an elder statesman, and so he's been talking about a lot of proposals when it comes to nation building. So we're going to touch on that later on the show, just briefly, really, because again, a lot of our time on the roundtable this evening will be dedicated to talking about the Rivers local government polls. Wike Fubara feud escalates amid chaos and tension as governors, quote unquote, APP candidates sweep it all. As of yesterday, I think the announcement was that 22 out of the 23 local government had been won by the APP. Now we are getting confirmations that, look, all the 23 local government has been sorted out, and Governor Fubara has sworn in the local government chairman elected on the platform of the APP. Was a clean sweep, and I think all the councillorship seats were also swept away by the APP. Again, the question on the roundtable this evening on this particular one is, how challenging is the crisis for our democracy? We are looking at the state of our democracy, the future of our democracy, and asking this all-important question: how challenging is this political crisis in Rivers State for our democracy? 25 years of staying democracy, how challenging is this really for this democratic experiment of the Fourth Republic? I have Barrister Curtis Adigba in the studio. I have Olalekan Oni in the studio, and together we're going to be looking at these two issues. It's nice to have you in the studio, Barrister Curtis, to discuss interesting turn of events in Rivers State. Nice to have you in the studio this evening. All right, Olalekan Oni, I'm so happy to have you in the studio today again. When it comes to raw politics, it's always a delight to have you have this conversation with us. Nice to have you in the studio.
Same here. Good evening. Thank you.
All right. So, Rivers LG polls, despite all odds, Rivers State local government elections took place yesterday amidst gunshots, bomb explosions, and protests in some parts of the state. So, it was not as peaceful as we had expected, but it depends on how you see it. There are analysts who have said that it was largely peaceful, except for one or two issues. But of course, there's no reports where you get gunshot, bomb explosions without you getting concerned, really, as to what could have happened if it was more than an election. But again, the build-up to the election has shown that, look, there was going to be this kind of situation. Well, the development, which did not fall short of pre-election predictions, left many residents worried, especially as a result of the minimal presence of the police across all polling areas. Minimal presence. There are people who said that, look, we had police formation. Some of our reports was that there were one or two police presence, maybe not at the polling unit, but they were at least in some parts of town, while there are people who said that, look, local vigilante took charge of the election. There are some who said that, look, the civil defense guys were on ground to also, protect people and all of that. But again, journalists and independent monitors in their reports observed that irrespective of widespread fear of violence across 23 local government areas in Rivers, the turnout appeared substantial. That's also one of the reports we got from independent monitors of the election, that look, people actually came out. Maybe not in the numbers I would have expected, but at least there was that impressive turnout for that local government election. So the exercise kicked off early. There was early distribution of materials. People came out quite early without the presence of police following the supply of sensitive materials, non-sensitive materials by the Rivers State Independent Electoral Commission. But the elections were held yesterday. It was as if it was not going to happen. From the Federal High Court judgment stopping INEC from releasing voters registered to the Rivers State Independent Electoral Commission, to the governor of Rivers State, who appeared on TV, really, really angry with the Inspector General of Police, IGP WG to his threat of going ahead with the elections and daring the IGP to shoot him and have it as one of his records, quote and unquote, for all manner of things, really. The elections have been held. The Rivers State government, led by Governor Siminalayi Fubara, is also talking about a Rivers State High Court that had already ruled on this same matter. And of course, we also have Mr. Femi Falana, the lawyer, SAN, the lawyer to the Rivers State Independent Electoral Commission, already talking about also getting a court order, on this same matter. So it's been a lot of legal fireworks, confusion, political fireworks, protest, statement after statement, interpretations upon interpretations of court judgments, everybody almost becoming a lawyer on this same matter. But the most important thing is that, look, there's that we need to focus on is that, look, Rivers State is becoming a major trouble for our democracy in the Fourth Republic. Again, by Sağ, the elections have been held. Almost as predicted, the APP, a little known political party in the state, but which people have said, well, was the signal point for the loyalists of Governor Fubara to go there, find some, find a platform and contest the elections, have eventually taken everything. It may not be new to political analysts, but build up to this particular issue, the elections in itself, and what has happened, where we are now. What do you make of the whole scenario?
All right, thank you for having me once more. And good evening, listeners. In the context of elections in Rivers State, this has got to be the most peaceful.
The most peaceful election?
In the context of elections in Rivers State.
Okay.
At least from 2015 up until now, every election
in Rivers State
has been dominated by violence.
And bloodshed.
Yeah.
Policemen were killed. Of course, even the 2 times that Wike ran and won as
governor, yes.
It was a bloody election.
Bloody, yes.
And he himself had boasted. In fact, he came to a rally with a cutlass, a machete, one time, saying he was willing to slash.
So elections in Rivers State is not new to violence and thuggery and all manner of things. Yeah.
When you then situate what happened yesterday in the context of pedigree or history of elections in Rivers State, this has got to go down as
the most peaceful.
And that is because the people actually wanted that election to hold, and the people are now behind their governor. Now, that election yesterday debunked so many assumptions. One, that Wike alone is the central power in Rivers State. And
the dominant power, the only power.
Without Wike, nothing can happen in Rivers. He's been boasting about how he's going to clear all the elections and prove to Fubara and his supporters that they are nothing when it comes to politics in Rivers State. Clearly, they saw the handwriting on the wall, and then they ran to court and tried to get all kind of injunction and cause confusion. Of course, that didn't go well.
We're going to talk about that particular judgment here.
Yes. And, the funny thing, the other assumption that was debunked
yesterday
by what happened yesterday is that without the police, you cannot conduct elections.
Peaceful elections. But sorry to cut in, just to buttress what you're saying, and then you can take it from there.
Yeah.
The well-respected Richard Akintola too posted something, some few minutes on Facebook, and he's saying that, look, with a relatively peaceful election in Rivers State yesterday, without police presence, what does that say about the role of the police in our elections? I think the IGP scored an own goal.
In fact, the police has become the problem of our elections. Given what happened,
because they were not, they were not in the elections.
You saw in Imo State.
In Imo State, yes.
How policemen were caught snatching ballot boxes on behalf of the ruling party in the state. We saw what happened in Edo State. And when you go to other parts of the world,
yes,
police people have no role in the conduct of election.
Just to protect him,
people are not even asked to stay at home. Movements are not restricted because
elections are being held.
So we have given the police this dominant role, and it started during the time of Obasanjo, if you recall. The then IGP, I think, Smith.
Yes.
And you heard about his jeep farm, where governors were donating jeeps, SUVs, to him. If you just want to win the election, you have to get the IGP on your side. That has been the problem of our election. So this election yesterday happened without the police, established a clear fact that you don't even need the police to conduct a peaceful election.
If the people are determined, to have it free and fair.
Sometimes their presence
is even the problem.
It's even the problem because they take sides. And that is the ugly situation we find ourselves in this part of the world. That a national institution like the police is always available to be used by the party in power to truncate democracy. That's very serious. And I make this allegation with all sense of seriousness and responsibility. We have facts to prove it. Now, the other thing is that INEC can afford to hide under a court order, like all our institutions. Because institutions cannot protect themselves. Those who manage them have got to develop the courage
to do the right thing,
to defend those institutions. But you see, whenever the ruling government is concerned or a powerful individual is connected to the issue, they quickly accept
court orders.
They don't want to even appeal. How will a court stop an institution from performing legal duties? It's just like
by releasing the.
It's just like a court. Why would the court tell the police
not to
provide security? The Police Act Section 4. Look, this is why we are where we are as a country. That the court is just like the court getting up and saying, President Tinubu, don't function as president of Nigeria.
And because it's a court,
you
will now obey
your responsibility. This is the irresponsible power we have given to the judges. And this is why the selection, appointment, swearing-in ceremony of judges have become political events. Because you need to establish a presence and contact within the judiciary. You listen to what Justice Auta said.
Yeah.
She said from the moment that the court declared Peter Obi the winner, politicians, their eyes opened wide
to the reality of the court.
That the court is so powerful. We also saw what happened in Rivers State, where the Supreme Court, after the judgment in Ifeanyi Ararume's case,
yes,
that he was the candidate of the party and not Sylvester Ogu. President Obasanjo immediately expelled Ararume from the PDP, thereby, foisting a situation on the Supreme Court that his judgment cannot be effected. And when another matter with similar facts went to the Supreme Court, the Supreme Court did not just stop there by saying Amaechi is the candidate. It went further by saying the candidate, the votes belong to the party. And since Amaechi is the candidate of the party, he should be sworn in immediately.
He inherits the votes.
So this was when you have a court or courts in Nigeria that were very serious, bold, and could challenge the ruling government. Look at the other time, the case of Atiku and Obasanjo, where Atiku was locked out of the villa.
But the courts were
of the Supreme Court
stood up and ensured that it can't be expelled from the party.
So this is why we did our national institutions. Now they went ahead and conducted the election. Rivers State was not the only state that elections held yesterday.
Yes.
And
even in Benue yesterday.
Yes,
Akwa
Ibom, Benue, yeah.
There were disputes. In Benue, it was between two factions.
The
faction
of the same party.
loyal to secretary to the government of the federation, and then the faction that is loyal to the governor. But the election had. So we have to be very, very careful. You know, and I think the third assumption that this election yesterday busted
and cancelled completely.
And I'm sure that wherever the president is now, is beginning to reassess his alliance with Wike.
No, there are other things we can present to the president.
We are waiting. But I'm going to get to you, Neoni. Let's let me hear.
He sits there and he's saying to himself, okay, you know, I had thought that this guy controls everything in River State. For 2027, the strategy has started. If he's no longer in charge, you know, because if he can be casually put aside.
So you think beyond controlling Rivers politics,
what is his relevance?
Wike understands that his political survival, even with the president, it rests on the fact that, look, he has to continue to show the president is in charge in Rivers State.
Politics is local now.
Video where Wike himself said River State cannot be Lagos.
We're going to play all the sound bites. I have everything. No.
Once he finishes serving, like Odile and others, he will go because he knows the government is so powerful.
I have three.
There's an excuse already on that.
No, I'm coming. I have 3 sound bites here.
There's an excuse already on that.
Wait now. I have 3 sound bites here to play today. One of the sound bites is that is the voice of Justice Amina Age, retired of the appeal court.
So let me finish my point now.
Yes.
Now, the fourth one is that Wike has shown that is a typical Nigerian politician who lacks integrity, as he calls it himself.
Integrity.
Yes, he lacks. I wish, in fact, Wike ought to be speaking to Wike
about integrity.
If I were him, I would gather all the videos and tapes.
All those things that you have said.
They are said in the past.
I've granted. And I'm just going to cite only 3. Remember when he said he cannot have headache and then wants to have cancer.
And go to cancer. Referring to the APC as cancer. Why the PDP
Remember
said
when he said after the PDP primaries, after he had lost, how he swore that as a party man, he's not going anywhere. He's going to stand behind this. The winner is going to fight very hard. That person, what did he do? Remember in the video now, we talked about how he had talked about the fact that once you're a governor and you have served, you should just go and leave others to do their
and that what is happening in Lagos cannot happen in River State. Yes.
Media houses and
said all that.
But then you have people who still believe that this guy is a savior, a political savior. And this is why I said one of the biggest problems we have in this country is that we don't have elite consensus on standard of governance or standard of ethical governance. And a friend of mine
that is consistent with a democracy.
Yes. And a friend of mine said, no, you are wrong. We have a standard. We have an elite standard. We have an elite consensus. And that consensus
on a democracy.
Yes, is to keep doing the wrong thing and expect that the right thing will happen to us as a nation. Because he said, let me give you 2 clear examples. We had this argument yesterday. My due condolences to the governor of Akwa
Ibom State, yes.
Whose wife
lost the first lady, the wife,
what he simply said, I've appointed her to take the place of the mother. It was not an office created by the Constitution. How had power. That is why, if unfortunately the governor passes, if the governor is a man, he passes, his wife cannot succeed him.
Yes.
At all. It has to be the deputy governor. Yeah.
In fact, in countries where probity accountability is given priority, government do not fund the programs
of the first lady.
The first lady. But in this part of the world, government fund them.
Despite
they run the offices. Of course, you had the controversy about the vehicles, the cost of the vehicles, but for
even we have budgetary provisions for that office, allocations,
So that once public funds is used to maintain that office, it's no longer a family affair. Now, there is a guy who was so against the idea that the office of the First Lady in Nigeria has a budget, who was so against the idea that the children of the president are attending meetings. That guy wrote a long article yesterday justifying the appointment of the daughter to the governor. Why? Because he's from Akwa Ibom State.
And so now it is very convenient for him to take that position.
So I told him, the problem with this country is that my thief is good,
Yes.
but your thief
It's bad. When it's your thief,
Yes.
it's good.
These same
Mental
people,
problem.
different opinions on same
ethical
thing,
issues, really.
depending on where benefits lie for them, and that benefit does not have to be monetary.
So basically, we are not even a people of values,
so we have
just
no
of interests.
interest. Whenever it's in your best interest,
It is okay.
you make a case to justify it.
Yes.
If it is not, you make a case to condemn it.
And there's always something to say.
So that's it.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Curtis Adigba. Well, we're streaming the show live on Facebook, so you can start to drop your comments and contributions on our Facebook platform. We're also on YouTube. You can also drop your comments and contributions. Of course, we're going to make the show interactive and open our phone lines for you to also be a part of the show. Minister Wike, people have said that, look, it's time for him to soft pedal, backtrack, have a reflection on what has happened to him. He himself has said that, look, it was a bad political investment, a bad investment. And there are people who think, look, you've done enough. Sometimes you go into an investment, like he already puts it, and discover that, look, this is a bad investment. And then you just stay back, re-strategize. There are people who are saying that, look, allow the governor to do whatever he wants to do. Let him take charge of the governance of the state. Why you now start to, galvanize support, to rearrange your troops towards 2027? Do you think that with what has happened with this election, it's time for Minister Wike to allow the sleeping dog lie? Sure, he doesn't want anybody to tamper with it. And with the fact that the state PDP is still in his control, it means that structure, quote unquote, could still be intact. Yes. Don't you think it's time for him to stay back now, re-strategize, pull his troops back for maybe a counter-attack for 2027?
Well, first of all, Wike, to me, is not a man of his words. Barrister Curtis gave different examples.
Yeah.
And then let me also refer to some weeks ago when he held the PDP Congress in Rivers. And he said that they accepted that they've done a bad business in 2023.
2023, yeah.
And that they will go back to the drawing board to, see how they can, galvanize support towards 2027. But if Wike is somebody who we can trust with his words, yesterday or the past 1 week shows that what he said, he actually didn't agree with it. Because if he has accepted defeat, he would have allowed this local government election that was held yesterday to just go the Fubara way and all of that.
Let them conduct the elections without story.
We saw how we knew that it was Wike's hands that went to the
this
court.
so-called APC faction in court.
APC faction in court and all of that. And we also saw that, and I think that they made a mistake with what they went to get, the injunction they got in court. Because if you look at that restraining order, was to say that police shouldn't participate in the election. So we never said that the election should not
hold.
And I'm waiting to see what they will take to court again, because we're hearing that any local government that is not duly elected, what the Supreme Court judgment and all of that the federal government will
withhold their
allocations and all of that. But the court injunction never said
the election should not hold.
The election should not hold. What it said was that people have also argued that there was no INEC register that was released for the election and all of that. But we also await what will happen. And Fubara was, for me, he was wise enough to have held that election politically. And I saw that he was determined. He was resolute. We saw all his interviews. We saw how he was very angry. Said so many things and all of that. I see that it is very possible that Fubara will scale through this particular local government election. It's possible because we know the kind of president we have. It is possible that the president will just say that allow this to go, and study the court injunction, the court order, and all of that, and see that the court never said that the election should not hold. Having said that, also, you see, all this fight is towards 2027, as we all know.
So why can't they just wait or stay quiet, do the underground job?
You can't be quiet. That's politics. You have to fight on every day and prove to your followers, for example, and prove to your people that you are still
in charge
and still going to win the war and win the battle and all of this. But Curtis mentioned that the president should look at it and see that Wike is almost losing. Wike didn't agree that he's losing. I'm sure that they would have gone to tell the president something different. If you remember that same Saturday, the APC and the PDP went to the streets.
The streets, yes. Some factions protested,
protested that they boycotted.
So it was also to tell the president that, look, our guys are not happy. Yes. We are still on ground.
Yes, and at the end of the day, they will say that the reason why the election was peaceful was because it was only APP, Fubara people that did the election. So, that's one of the things they will say that.
But at least it was peaceful.
Yeah, they will say it's APP now. That the people of Rivers didn't participate. They will tell the president that people came from neighboring states to vote.
I took a truckload of Benue people there.
Lagos people.
These are the things they will present to the president, and at the end of the day, just to say that we are still
in charge, we are on ground.
So don't look at Fubara's side. And then if you look at Fubara also, Fubara is also careful. In some of his speeches, you will never see him talk about federal might. He only face the IGP.
He has always, I think even his camp has always said that, look, they are with the president. They support the president and his renewed over.
And this is how this fight will linger on till 2027. Everybody will say, the only mistake I don't want Fubara to make is in the camp.
For now.
No, it shouldn't. For me anyway, that's my calculation.
He's going to leave the PDP. If not, I mean, if it doesn't have the structure of the party, he will never get a ticket.
But some
is there even a structure in the PDP? We are going to come to the PDP, really.
Sorry to butt in.
Okay.
If Fubara does not reclaim the structure of the PDP
in Rivers State,
he will be foolish.
But you can't. You can't.
That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
The PDP Governors Forum are solidly behind it.
Yes.
And I tell you, as the PDP in the opposition is watching, the next step of the PDP, after the conduct of the election and it settles down, is to move and impeach, to expel Wike from the party.
Yes.
And that's the only way they can
expel Wike from the party, where some few days ago we still had Seyi Makinde, the governor of Adamawa State, Fintiri,
yes,
who are still showing solidarity with Nyesom Wike.
Personal
so much issue.
Personal friendship from a collective interest. The teeth that the dog uses to carry the child to safety is the same teeth he used to bite.
But I see a polarization within the governors forum because of what Mr. Fuad just said.
Right now, listen, Umaru Fintiri has always been a personal friend with Wike. Okay. Don't forget that in the run-up to the 2023 election, Umaru Fintiri was Atiku's ambassador to Wike, trying to get him to come back to the camp so many times.
Yes.
Now, but don't forget also that when that results were declared and the APC candidate in Adamawa was declared,
was costing on to
Wike did not stand behind Umaru Fintiri. Now, what happened in Port Harcourt last time was that it was Wike who sent out the invitations.
And they all came.
To say, I am being hosted by a splinter group of a job.
So it was just about friendship.
And of course, when you get to that kind of event,
you want to say something. You want to be politically correct, at least to get the man excited.
But when it is time to bite, you will bite.
So you think Fintiri,
if Seyi can bite, can go against
Wike?
Let me tell you, Seyi's direction. Seyi has got two problems. And they are both two problems. Seyi wants to be president. Seyi has ambition to be president.
Okay.
In fact, I don't know if you heard a prophet who told him that he's going to be president.
So he's listening to the prophet.
And that right now is his best chance. If he gives up this chance, he will never.
So you think it's about prophet? So you think it's about prophecy somewhere?
So, but you can see, even though he has not made us believe that he's giving serious thought
to the
prophecy.
But we've seen his boys on the street.
We have seen WhatsApp groups have been created. Pages have been created on social media.
So what you are going to see,
yes,
is Seyi Makinde, who is going to act like a patient lion.
Okay.
Align the pride. The pack to hunt.
And then play the double game. Stay here, stay there.
Somehow, something goes wrong and the incumbent president, for whatever reason, does not run. Or his administration goes so bad for Nigerians that just anybody can be set up.
So in that calculation, how does Seyi Makinde come in?
That's what I'm saying.
Because again, let's even.
The Southern will complete.
Because in spite of all this, Seyi Makinde has not moved to the APC, even in spite of his support for the president.
Yes.
So the only way is the Southwest, right, will be aggrieved if Tinubu is not given a second term. And the only way to placate them is to say, okay, we'll give you someone from the Southwest. and Seyi Makinde will fit that bill. He's young.
And run a single term? Is that possible?
Yes,
very possible.
What are you saying? Even if he's giving one year to be president,
we've had so much. We've had to talk so much about the president in this particular conversation. It's almost as if everything that is happening in Rivers State is still centered around the interest of the president.
Yes.
So Barrister Curtis, how important, one, is the president in this conversation? And people are talking about legacy already for this administration of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. And for those who are saying, oh, with old, the local government allocation, people are already also talking about the things we saw during the Obasanjo administration, you know, yes, where the police was used against political adversaries, you know, and all of that. People are saying that, look, no matter the interest that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu could be pushing with this Rivers matter, especially with relationship with Wike, it should not allow us to have a repeat of all of the bad things we've seen with our democracy, not even under his watch.
You know why the president is so central to this conversation?
Yes.
And why he appears to be at the core of the political ecosystem? Because the president is so powerful in Nigeria. The Nigerian president is the most powerful president in the world, apart from Putin. Because he controls the army, he controls the police, he controls everybody. He can decide whether he should be governor or not governor.
Yes.
Have you forgotten that the current governor of Bauchi openly thanked Mr. President for not influencing the courts to remove them?
Yes.
He's that powerful. Have you forgotten in this country?
Even more I know, the current Akwa Ibom
governor,
when he won the Supreme Court
judgment,
also
even in Bayelsa State after the elections,
let me tell you,
the man went to Abuja to thank.
If I'm a member of the opposition today, and I saw how lavish the president took the swearing in of the new CJN, I'll be scared.
It's a message somehow.
First of all, he had to cut short his visit to France to come back to swear her in an acting capacity. And after she was confirmed, you saw the fanfare. The fanfare, around it.
The president was so.
If you are a watcher of politics, what happened is very telegraphic. Is that apart from acting as the president, and apart from the fact that Mrsᴏ is from Lagos State, the president is interested in building a personal
relationship with the CJN.
And that could become very critical in the days ahead. Now, the point that we have to, why I say the president is central to this, the only strength that Wike has today is because he's minister of FCT.
That's it.
If Wike was at home,
if the president,
if he was just in Rivers State,
what I say, if the president drops Wike from his cabinet
today,
that's the end.
That's the end of the crisis in Rivers State. If it doesn't
end of the crisis, not even.
If it doesn't die immediately, it will weaken. If it was a hurricane category 5, it will go to 1.
Category -0.
Within 1 week.
No, for me, it's even automatic.
You see,
just drop him as a minister today. That's the end of it.
Everything has ended.
It is that cabinet position that he holds, and the resources that they could garner and the influence. That is what is.
And the fact that he has to continue to tell the president, "I'm in charge."
And that is what is causing the problem in
Rivers State.
Just imagine. Look at Amechi. Amechi was governor. Wike was Amechi's chief of staff.
Amechi was also powerful. So at one point,
how powerful is Amechi now? He's not a minister.
He's not a minister. He's not anything.
So that's why the president is central to this conversation. Secondly, a lot of people, including my brother here, understands that what is happening in Rivers State is not about today.
Yes.
It's about who is capable of delivering that state in 2027 for the president. And I've told you the story in this. When Ayofáyọsé was running for second term in Ekiti, the bet is sold to Jonathan. If you don't have a foothold in the whole of Southwest, you will lose them completely. So help me to win the election in Ekiti, and I'll be a foothold.
Yes.
And from there we can spread out. So the president is not interested in any legacy at this point. The legacy can come later, if it will ever come. What the president is interested now
is winning election.
Because you must understand that in a 4-year term, you only use 2 years to govern.
Yes. From the 3rd year, election begins.
And this was the argument by Damisa, the Zambian economist who trained in Harvard, in a book called The Edge of Chaos, where she argued that the reason why democracy has not worked for Africa is because of what she described as short-termism. The terms are so short, and politicians are focused on winning the next election, not on delivering on the mandate given
to them. Yeah.
So if you then bring someone who doesn't even understand what he needs to do, he's trying to study the job before hitting the ground. The time is already going. He start plotting another one.
Whereas he's still dealing with,
So that's why the president, because one, is so powerful, he controls the entire system and is not afraid to use them if he needs to use them. 2, he's kept in place Wike and giving him access and power and resources to continue to fight a sitting governor. And if you remove him today, that ends that conflict. Because you see, all the people who are dancing, they make a day, my day, following Wike up and down. If Wike doesn't have the resources to keep sustaining them, one after the other,
they will change the dance or change the music and dance something else.
Go to Fubara.
All right.
Finally,
yeah.
Have you asked yourself, why in spite of this intensifying conflict between the two camps, why is it that the House of Assembly has not moved to impeach Fubara?
We have 2 factions.
No. The other faction has only 3 or 4 members.
The other one. Okay, the one for Wike, you're talking about the larger one, the larger faction.
They
Yeah.
have to touch.
Yes.
The question is, why have they not moved?
At least as a faction,
Yes.
to say we've impeached him.
To impeach him.
How do they implement the impeachment?
Because they have the police behind them.
Also, they
have the house. They have the.
No.
Let me tell you why they cannot move forward.
With any impeachment move.
They don't have the support of their local people. Those guys today are struggling for their political lives.
Yes, sir.
You remember what happened to those who refused to be sworn in Edo?
In Edo.
Yes.
What happened to them?
And they were locked down for.
They were hanging on someone.
And when he couldn't carry the bill again, they
came back and started begging.
Well, Olalekoni, if you were to have a one-on-one with Minister Nyesom Wike, we've talked on it a bit. What will you be telling him? We're going to listen to Minister Nyesom Wike, when he was the governor, and all of the things he has said about the power of the governor, and even when Fubara was newly elected, and he was also passing some messages to politicians in Rivers State about the power of the governor. These were words of Minister Nyesom Wike about, one, the issue of godfatherism in Rivers State. And then he also talked about the power of the governor. Oh, if you think he's a small boy, the governor. So if Mr. Nyesom Wike knows that, look, godfatherism can never exist in Rivers State, then what has suddenly changed? If he knows that the governor is so powerful. Okay, so that you can put it in proper context, let's listen to these 2 soundbites. I think it's just less than 3 minutes, just about 2 minutes. The first one is Wike talking about godfatherism as a no-no in Rivers State. He even had to throw jabs at us in Lagos as people who don't know what we are doing. And we take it. But this is the same man that is saying something completely different, or acting completely different from what he has said about godfatherism in Rivers State. We are going to talk about that integrity later. And then Wike on the power of the governor. So let's listen to this soundbite. And we'll be right back. Say Political Roundtable Mainland 98.3 FM. Barrister Saliba is here. Olalekoni is here. Let's listen to Nyesom Wike. Before all of this crisis started between himself and Fubara.
It may happen in Lagos, but it will not happen in Rivers. We are quite different. It will not happen here. As a governor, I will come and go. I can't stop it. I must come and go. All the 괏 left. You never had Ugly saying that you will do this, you don't do that. The day my tenure, by the grace of God, ends, I go. That's how God wants it. But see, when you are in a position to think that what's happening in Lagos State, you will do it here, it may be difficult. You cannot continue to say you must be a godfather of the state. That's the problem. It's not possible. Today I live here in the name of Almighty God. I have no business to say what must I produce? Why? What am I hiding? The people of the state should be able to say this is who they want to produce. We from that state, we don't want to lost somebody in the Twitter. Not in Nigeria. It's not like those who will say this governor is a small boy, I will not serve him. They are ignorant. They are what? Ignorant. You call a governor a small boy, you pay dearly for it. You don't know what power is all about. If you know what power is all about, you don't say that governor is a small boy. You saw when I came down to go and receive you, not? Why not surprised? Because the mantle of leadership has changed. I was, who don't know what they are talking about. You are seeing a governor, you won't serve the governor, he's a small boy. What a small boy will do to you, you understand that this small boy you are talking about, the power both from heaven and earth is with him. When he descends on you, then you know that Kakino be leader.
Well, interesting times, really. How time flies, how things can change very, very fast. You know, it's going to be a bit difficult for people to believe that that was actually Wike just some few years ago. Also from a few months, actually, ago, talking about the fact that, look, I don't know why people keep insulting us in Lagos, but okay, it's the way it is, really. They keep talking. When they talk about godfatherism and all that, they talk about Lagos. Right. As if we are the only ones.
Have you heard the saying that no matter how you package faces, it's still faces?
No matter what. Even if
put the perfume.
All right.
Let me tell you something. There's a small story about a driver traveling with some passengers. One of them happened to be a teacher who just got his salary and was in the bus. And the thief was also in the bus, managed to steal all his salary. So when he wanted to get down from the bus, he put his hand in his pocket to pay the transport fare. The money was not there. And the teacher started abusing him. How can a matured man like you do this kind of trick? You know you have no money. So everybody was laughing at the man. And then the thief came and said, let his fare be on me. And everybody started thanking him. The man also prayed for him and said, thank you, God bless you. Now, why did the thief do that? He didn't do it because he wanted to be a good man. But he wanted to buy the trust of the other passengers.
So that nobody suspects him.
So they can relax and he will steal their money more. That's exactly what's happening in Nigeria, in our country. You know, when people get into politics, they know how important money is to politics. They steal from all of us. Deny us the things that should have made life better for all of us.
Weaponize poverty, actually.
Yes, and then they come back and start giving us peanuts, left
tokens,
and start saying they are built structure.
Out of what belongs to us.
Out of what belongs to us. And then the rest of us will be thanking them like the passengers in the bus, thanking the thief.
For paying the money stole from.
Meanwhile, it's for them to buy. That's why you go and say, he bought small buses for us. So he gave us solar. And that's why I said, the quest for charity will be reduced if public funds are used to meet the need of the people. Why should we divert some funds to the office of the First Lady or the wife of the governor if the same funds can be used for the people by the governor who has been given the power? But you see, we have thieves who are acting as philanthropists and getting praised by their victims. And that is why people like Wike are relevant in our society. He forgets the things he says so quickly.
So, because I just listened to the two and
there is no accountability. Nobody has been held.
But it's the man that talks about integrity every time.
Do you know, as we are talking today, let me be a prophet, a political prophet here today. There are people who will call and insult Fubara.
For even daring to conduct the elections?
No, for betraying Wike.
I'm going to talk about betrayals today, really.
You understand? Because Fubara was made governor by Wike.
Okay.
And Fubara has betrayed Wike.
How? Look.
No, because...
By Sağ, I took up this particular conversation with a friend over, I think a day or two ago. And he said, oh, Fubara betrayed Wike. And I said, before you talk about betrayal, you must have seen an agreement.
Yes.
Before you talk about betrayal between two people, there must have been, you must have seen the agreement between them.
It doesn't have to be writing though.
Whatever it is, at least you must have been aware.
Like the agreement between me and Sandra is not in writing. No?
So Adam said that, look, between Wike and Fubara, both of them have not come to the public space to say, look, this exactly is the issue.
No, they won't tell you. The reason why they won't tell you, but we pick snippets of what the issues are. Wike himself came out and said, Fubara said it's about billions of naira every month. How can he be talking? Did you know how much I spent to make him governor? That's what he said. Fubara has come out to say,
I cannot give my kidney.
I cannot give my kidney to anybody.
Liver.
So it can't be kidney and liver issue. No. Or maybe it's just...
No, the kidney is about money.
Okay, money, kidney.
And he's also said that the roads that the man said he made, he built at certain costs, were not even built. And the funds disappeared. So from that you know that what is at stake here is money.
It's money.
Guess what? That has always been. It's not that they are fighting over one beautiful girl. It's not even about second term for Fubara.
Yes.
Because if the issue of money was settled,
second time would have been assured.
Nobody will hear what is going on. But the young man said, people tend to think that I have no pedigree. He said, my dad worked in Shell. I also worked in Shell. Before I was brought into the government. So it's not that I was jobless. But you see, I also assisted him to do everything that he did. He didn't say, I have no hand in what happened. And I know exactly what he did.
So he knows where the dead bodies are buried.
Yes. Because he was the undertaker.
Yes.
Don't forget that this was the same Fubara that the EFCC declared him wanted.
And he was reported then that he was kept at the government house.
The governor had immunity, they couldn't declare him wanted. So they went after Fubara. So what Fubara is saying is, he knows the things that he's saying. And if I were Wike, let me tell you, and I hope that he gets to hear this. If I were Wike, my people say that if you don't draw a meat, the pepper in it cannot enter your eye.
Abi?
I will leave Fubara to be the governor. I will focus on my job in Abuja. Whatever I have at my disposal, I will use it to maintain my structure until 2027.
That's what I want to say as well.
If I don't want to do that, then I will find a way to reconcile with Fubara and set up a trap for him. In which case he will relax with me, thinking that we have made peace, and I'll pull the plug at the right time.
Yes.
But it cannot continue the way he's going. In fact, that even takes away his energy to do the job. Because everybody is shouting, go to Abuja and see what Wike has done. I thought that when I go to Abuja, Dubai will be child play. Nothing has happened.
Well, Aleykoni, local government elections, how important is the control of the local government? Because there are people who have said that, look, Obaseki was in charge of the local government in Edo State, and he still lost.
Well,
his party still lost at the at the governorship elections. Yes. That, look, why can't a Wike just allow Fubara, take over the local government, put your people there, and then strategize? Are you saying that, look, because again, if you look at the energy, we know that, look, this faction of the APC that has gone to court, whether we like it or not, has a hand of Wike in it. Yes. Because again, there's another faction of the APC who said, look, they are happy with the elections and they are even happy to take part in it. But what we are saying is that, look, have we not seen governors who had control of the local government?
And they lost.
WဃÇOᴛsAᴘᴘ was a governor who, and he lost to the opposition. So why don't you think that a Wike, like by Sağ have said, is just someone with a very bad strategy, really? And maybe this is more of his weakness and even his strength as a politician.
Yes. You asked if I have the opportunity to see Wike.
Sit with him and advise him.
I would advise him to, use which is one of the strategies by Socrates mentioned. The second one, just sit down. If you look at the way Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu fight,
plays his own politics.
He doesn't shout. He will just, in fact, sometimes he will do as if he is supporting you, but when it's at the right time, he will pull the plug. I think this is what Wike should do. The energy is putting into fighting Fubara, and if you look at the as it is, Wike is losing public sympathy by the day. Everybody,
and perception is key even in this fight.
Yes. So if everybody is saying Wike is doing this, Wike is doing that, and at the end of the day, even whatever he's doing in FCT, this fight and the public sympathy is losing is overshadowing whatever effort he's making as the minister of FCT. And at the end of the day, if he continues like this, I see the president calling him to order and say, guy, this is becoming too much and all of that. So I feel that it is high time Wike withdraws from this particular fight.
This battle.
Yes, from this battle and re-strategize. We are still in 2024. Wike has the resources to maintain the structure. Even I believe that even if Wike is not the minister of FCT, we know how they maintain structure in politics. It is about money. What he has sparked for the last 8 years in Rivers is even enough for him to maintain that structure.
Yes. But he cannot spend the governor, even with...
You said?
The current is always the current.
Yes. So I feel that Wike needs to just withdraw and re-strategize. Like you said, you don't even need the local government to even have the whole of the structure. People were even outside the government, and the way local government is that some chairman, all these governors, sometimes they even put people who don't have the followership in their local government. So
sometimes they become a liability, not even an asset to the governor.
So you can, Fubara can put all of these people in government, and at the end of the day, they do not control.
They even become a problem for him.
They do not control the large followership in their respective local government. And you have the people. You've been governor for 8 years. You know the people that even control this grassroots.
Some influential people around.
Influential people. So with money, this is Nigeria politics anyway. And with all of these resources in your custody, you can still control this structure and allow Fubara. Because at the end of the day, if you look at it, the question you've been asking is that how dangerous is it for our democracy? There is no way, no matter how brilliant or how smart Fubara is, with all these battles, governance cannot go on smoothly.
In Rivers State.
It is not possible. Yes. Governance cannot go on smoothly. We said it here before. Yes. So at the end of the day, and if you look at IGR is coming in, monthly federal allocation is coming in, month over month is going. All these monies will not be used for the people. At the end of the day, it is the people that will still suffer for all of this fight, except those who are close to either Wike or Fubara, whereby they will be putting in resources into their hands and all of that. So at the end of the day, I feel that Fubara or Wike should have. Reverend Sam Adeyemi was talking about our leadership some days ago, and he was saying that Nigerian leaders need to have conscience to the way they lead. Yes, conscience, good conscience. It is not about getting to the office. It should be about the people. You said people gave you the mandate. How are you utilizing the mandate for the people?
All right. Are you utilizing the mandate for the people? Before we move to the second issue and then, of course, start to take messages on our Facebook and YouTube platform and also open the phone lines for our listeners to be a part of the show, by Socrates, the judiciary is very, very important that we talk about the role of the judiciary in our democracy. And the new CJN had talked about some form of house cleaning. She's talked about, also having punitive measures against judges who misbehave, quote and unquote. She's talked about a whole lot of sanitization that needs to happen within the judiciary. On this matter, there have been questions about court pronouncements. In Rivers State, by Socrates as we speak, we've lost count of the number of court cases on the Rivers matter. In fact, I doubt even if the active political players remember some of the court cases again, because cases are being filed left and center on almost every matter in Rivers State. There's a court case. People know the cost to go to. There are even reports that they even decide the judges to put the cases before. And even as a journalist, we've lost count of all of the court cases. The court situation on the assembly matter, we don't even know. It's difficult for me to say this is where we are as far as the courts are concerned on the assembly matter. It's difficult for us to know what the court decisions are on the defecting lawmakers. It's difficult to know on so many things, really. And so people are saying that, look, the judiciary has a critical role to play to sustain this democracy. And that, look, if this democracy fails again, we should hold the judiciary responsible because of how they help our politicians to do this thing. But Mr. Curtis, it was almost like a reminder of the coup that was done against June 12. What we've seen with this Rivers matter, where a court is almost, truncating an electoral process. You know how people a day to the election June 12 went to court to get a funny court injunction, but then, the next chairman at that time decided to go ahead with the elections. Before you answer that question, because again we are looking at judiciary and how complicit and how it is important that we continue to talk about their role in our democracy. A retired Justice Amina Alge talked about
the Supreme Court
of the Supreme Court talked about when our politicians suddenly discovered that it's important that they plant people in the courts. How they discovered that the courts, apart from snatching ballot boxes, apart from whatever you do, buy votes or not buy votes, that look, after all said and done, you must have some level of control in the courts. Yes.
Before you play that in,
yes.
Let me tell you now the strategy for winning an election in Nigeria.
In Nigeria,
you first of all have to hire thugs. And if you can, you have the resources also to get the police on your side. Go rig the election, and then let the results be challenged in court. And then you buy the judges that you can buy, and you're home and dry.
That's the way we run elections now.
That's it. That's a strategy for winning an election in Nigeria.
So what's the fate of our democracy?
Well, it's in the pocket of the judges. Because right now, look, and I'm not saying that we do not have judges who are honest, who are patriotic, who are hardworking,
and committed to the tenets of democracy.
Judges and justices. If you see the labor that they had to go through to churn out these judgments, and you see what happens, whereby cases that ought never to go to court are going to court because these politicians can't contain themselves.
They can't just.
Don't forget that there are cases in the dockets of these judges for years that have been there. And these cases are making their ways slowly to judgment. And then they go on appeal and all that. But because these political cases
are time bound,
these judges have to
quickly expedite actions on it. Yeah.
And in the process, you see, no matter, except for very few individuals who are so deeply entrenched in their values that they will not compromise, many people who have never seen the kind of money
our politicians have.
Money is coming from these politicians. A lot of them have compromised their values. So this is where the problem is. That, it was Justice Soputa who said, if a policeman armed with a gun on the road is robbing people, it's bad, but it's not as terrible as a judge who sits in his court, takes bribe and compromise the justice of a case. Because where do you go to? Because if the policeman is arrested on the road, it's a judge that is going to be brought before to be found guilty and appropriate punishment meted out. But if the judge is the one himself, look at the raid on the homes of justices
during the Buhari era,
and some justices of the Court of Appeal. What happened? We were focused on the method and not on the substance.
It was an attack on the judiciary and all that. Yeah.
At that particular time, the president of NBSO was on trial for money laundering.
At that time,
the EFCC. And so, at the end of the day, what happened? All these justices that were arraigned before the court, their colleagues found technical grounds
to set them free,
one after the other, to set them free, and we have never recovered from that point, because what would have instilled fears became a
trivial issue. Yeah,
not even a trivial issue. It became a strengthener for them to persist on their way, because they now know that I can do anything and get away with it. Nothing will happen to me. National Judicial Council. How many judges or justices
have been sanctioned,
have been punished, or sanctioned by this body? And this is why we are where we are. Do you now understand why companies who are doing business in Nigeria we include in the agreement a clause to seek for arbitration
outside of the country.
Yes.
or they will just leave your system
Because they don't trust it. They don't trust the justice system here.
Yes.
Mm.
That was what happened in the case of the jets that were seized.
The Chinese firm that took us out of.
So we have a long way to go. And because you see, even when people, okay, look at how do you convince the man on the street that an election held in a state, election results were declared, someone was declared the winner, the other person was declared the fourth person,
Number four.
and
you know.
and then the matter went to court. number 1, 2, 3
Yes.
did not make it. The fourth person was made the governor by the court.
Based on technicality.
Based on
How do you convince
and the people of Imo State up till now
Yes, sir.
are living in that wonderment of that court decision.
What people do not understand is that justice must be seen to be done. Not only that justice is done, the average man who is not a lawyer, who does not have the technical mind, should also be able to.
Well,
Please relate
to a
with
great
judgment
extent,
and
this
say,
makes
okay, this
sense.
was our list.
So this is the problem that we are facing, and that is why whoever is going to be in charge of the judiciary, because when executive and the legislature fight, it has to end up in the court.
Yes.
At the end of the
When
day,
individuals cannot agree,
the courts.
it has to end up in the court. But if the court then
Fails,
becomes
that's
a
total
venue-
anarchy.
It becomes a venue for the highest purchaser.
Looks like all hope is.
Terrible.
All right, let's listen to Justice Amina Agay, a retired Supreme Court judge, who also talked about the problem in the judiciary, and talked about how politicians are desecrating, right from the registry.
They take bribe, hide your file.
She said a whole lot, really. She said a whole lot about what our politicians are doing to the judiciary. And the fear, Barrister Curtis Olelekon, is that, look, every other thing can fail. If that one fails, then we're talking about anarchy. Because there's no other way we can turn to. If the justice system becomes so compromised to the point where nobody trusts it. And I think we're already getting, unfortunately, to that point. But let's listen to Justice Amina Agay, and then we'll come back to, the roundtable to talk about Alhaji Atiku Abakar's proposal or suggestion of a single term of 6 years rotational presidency for the country. It's still Political Roundtable, Mainland 98.3 FM. Let's listen to Justice Amina Agay. We'll be right back.
Anyway, the bottom line, like all of us are going to say, for reforms to happen, we need to have a paradigm shift. We need to be able to train our people. And I still keep talking about the judicial justice sector. We need to have specialized schools. Judicial colleges, just like you have TV college. We need to have people that from secondary school know, like you have lab technology, you have all those things that we are going to go to the judicial sector. We are going to be trained in whichever way it is to be able to do that. For now, too many godfathers putting people that don't fit into the place we are having. We have round pegs in the square holes. And then I also want to tell you, and then I round up on that sector. I was on that panel, the first panel that removed Ngige and put Peter Obi that time. I was on that. That's the first time in the history of this country that the courts acted and removed the government. No, that's not the story. The thing is that before then, the politicians didn't really know the power that the court had until that case came up, and then after that, come and see floodgate. And then what do we have? Politicians are very strategic. They are very, you start looking at a young person, let me not say girl now, but a young person, you have your people now. The next thing is how do we put them as judges into all this? Not just at the high court, but move them up, move them. We have to have our people that we can call to go. This is where the whole thing started. This is where that whole have judicial officers that don't have the passion for the job. They are not trained for the job. To be a judge takes a particular mindset. It's not anybody that can do that job. And don't forget that as a judge, I can't talk like this if I was still in service. Because where will you even see me? Where will you even see me to say that, I would... the Honorable Minister Bagudu is here. I mean, he was my governor of Kebbi. I had not yet been sworn in. I went for Dr. Z, his wife's medical outreach, which I had been attending for years. So I hadn't been sworn in. I showed up at the event here in Abuja. Before you knew it, petitions that I'm going to be sworn in as Justice of Supreme Court. I'm already with what was PDP then or something next. That was, baptism of fire that told me that after that, you can't even see me anywhere. Then you have SANs. To be an SAN in this country, you need to have a certain number of cases at the High Court, Court of Appeal, and the Supreme Court. So cases that shouldn't even be in the system are now piled up. The courts are overworked because these people want to be SANs and need to have this case. So even if their client can't pay, the SAN is ready to pay all the way up there. I'll get as long as I have the required number of cases. So we do have a problem. We need justice sector reforms as badly as any other sector, and I rest my case there.
Well, again, some of these, sound bites, gets you to continue to think about the future of our democracy. That's a retired justice of the Supreme Court, talking about the fact that, look, that's moment where the courts, removed Ngige and put Peter Obi was when our politicians only discovered the powers of the courts, and they have started since then, to start to put people in place, not just put them in the high courts, but also put them up, to the highest level. Because again, it's not just us saying that. We're talking about somebody that should know. She's been on panels where governors have been removed. Highest position, really. So in the judiciary. So who else? Has the right, the understanding to talk about these things than a retired justice of the Supreme Court. Olaleko, how do we get out of this mess, really? Barrister Curtis was telling me about, the last swearing in of, justices of the Supreme Court and how politicians fill the room. Court of Appeal, sorry.
Where Wike's wife was one of the justices.
And then you keep hearing that, look, this judge is the brother to this politician, is a cousin to this politician, is this.
The other ladies have two of their daughters.
And that, look.
Just like the one who just retired.
Justice Ariwola has family members all around, and that's what Justice Aminoge is saying, that look, it's a problem. He's even talking about the fact that, look, to become SAN, you have a number of cases you once are presented in court.
And you heard Justice Senator
Bukachua. I really just wanted to avoid the Bukachua scenario. In the appeal court on how he trampled on her rights and her privacy and, and all that. We've talked about politicians now. We have talked about the police. We've talked about even the people. We've talked about everybody. Well, we had hoped that, look, if every other thing even fails, we even talked about the legislature, the assembly, and everything that is going on. But we thought that, look, the courts would have been spared. But politicians are not even sparing the courts of all the shenanigans we've seen in our political life. Is there any hope, really?
Well, thinking about
for this our democracy,
there's hope.
Thinking about all of these things. Thinking about all of these things. For me,
how do you feel?
Well, I feel hopeless about our democracy, and because I don't see all of these things ending soon.
No matter what we say.
No matter what you say. In fact, if you look at it, for me, it will grow more. We have. And these things exist in all of the institutions. If you look at the army, if you look at the police formation, if you look at maybe the civil defense, all of these things. In fact, it has gotten into the traditional institution whereby politicians dictate
who becomes the Oba, the Bale, the
Bales, and all of these things. So it looks like in that aspect, we really don't have any hope. If you go deep into how state judges are being, are selected and appointed and all of these things. In fact, you don't want to. I've met somebody who said he merited, becoming a state judge and all of that, and because somebody, a politician,
does not like his face,
doesn't like him, they had to put in some other persons and all of that. So it looks as if, as far as our institutions are concerned, all hope is almost lost. And again, one of the issues I see in Nigeria is this. If you now have maybe a governor or a president who wants to even try, let me say
try, just make that effort.
Do something right. The way the people will rise against him. And because somebody has said that, you see, democracy is actually not for the third world. Because at the end of the day, you will see that it leaves us worse as regards our values and, whatever quality the society has. It leaves us worse than it met us. If you look at, if a local government chairman, a governor, somebody just wants to do something right, or a police officer, if the way the society, the people will rise against him and say, is he the only one? And at the end of the day, it's easier to blame these politicians because, most times the buck stops on their table. But our people, what do they want? Do we have majority of people who wants us to do things better? So for me, sometimes all hope can be lost. For me, it's personal, and it can be very heart-wrenching for me. Because if you sit down and look at all of these institutions, if you look at everywhere, it looks as if
trouble everywhere.
Everywhere is compromised.
Everywhere is compromised by Mr. Curtis.
There is no country in the world that did not have both leadership and followership problems. But when you go through history, you will see that some individuals took it upon themselves to snap out
and whip the nation back to line, whip people back to line,
and take the lead.
Don't you feel we've gone beyond that mark?
No, I'm coming. And make the sacrifice. The first transfer of power, the first transfer in the history of democracy in the world, where a party in power loses an election and it hands over to another party, happened 4th of March 1801 in the United States. Before, then it was President Adams of the Federalist Party. And then there was a party known as Democratic Republican.
Then
Democrat and Republican used to be one party. Then Fidel Thomas Jefferson. Federalists lost that election. And men like Hamilton, James Madison, and co argued, even President Adams, that these Democrat Republicans cannot be trusted with power. That under them power was going to die. However, there were members of that government, people, who said the wishes and the will of the people who voted for these people must be preserved and respected. And that power changed hands.
Peacefully.
That began what we have today as democracy. There was a time where to go by them. If you can pay them, they know the network to trigger and you win election. Even when results are being collected and somebody is leading, once they are on your side, they know how to
manipulate him.
Over the period, men who felt that they should live for causes that are greater than themselves and live a country better than they made for their kids
started to change the narrative.
To make the sacrifice, putting themselves on the road. Laws began to happen. Constitutions were changing, amendments. The U.S. Constitution had 27 amendments as a result of states demanding that certain guarantees must be. So the point I'm trying to make here is that what we have had are a group of individuals who are always interested in preserving their self-interest. They meet a system that is not working for all of us, but they use that system to get to power. And instead of improving it, you understand, who will continue the same trajectory.
Maybe that's what Fubara is trying to do.
Look at what happened. The king of Malaysia said he didn't want them. Because of Lɪਧᴇ, who was always disturbing them in parliament. Today, you cannot chew chewing-gum in Singapore.
Yeah.
For citizens. It's one of the highest in the world. So the point I'm trying to make is that I share his views. I sympathize with them. Yes, truly, when you look at what is happening in this country, you think that there's
no hope anywhere. You think there's no hope anywhere.
Government after government, things have become worse. And we are mounting progress. We talked about how basic pipe-borne water was everywhere in this country.
Yeah.
At some point. This was the same country that when you were in the university, before you finish, companies will come and interview you. You were sure of getting a job. Your father didn't need to know anybody. Housing loan was waiting for you. Progressively, what has happened? They all disappeared. Scholarship, free feeding, and the same generation that benefited most
are the ones who are now and they will even tell you it's not possible again. There's no money to do it. There's no money to fund it.
Today we have more budget than ever.
Bigger monies.
What are we doing with it? There was a time in this country where the pound was fighting with our naira.
Sure, and the naira was even stronger than the dollar.
Yes. We had manufacturing outfits.
The industrial areas, the industrial zones are now religious centers.
These people who came and have been mounting since democracy started, mounting progress, one after the other, they dismantled whatever they made. If we had even remained stagnant, it would have been better.
We're moving back.
We're moving back. But I want to say there is hope for this country. Because
as a prophet.
Look,
I know you as a political consultant. Right?
The problem we have really is that
yes,
the system that we have put in place discourages our best and ablest from participating. Something is going to break.
So disruptive in their thinking.
Yes. Generation Gen Z will pull up to 6 million votes. But they didn't care whether he won the election or not. Do you understand? They just went there and cast their vote. There are things that are happening in this country that are sending signals. Look at the NSAS protest. It wasn't about
I think it's a national warning, really. It was a warning to our political class.
When you feel very bad, and I can sympathize with that position, I want you to know that there's going to come a time in this country where Nigeria will be free.
All right.
And Nigeria will take its place.
Definitely Nigeria.
Same,
you know, but this is sounding like a prophet this evening. But let's look at Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, the former Vice President. Atiku has asked the National Assembly to create a 6-year single tenure for anyone who becomes president of Nigeria. Abubakar, a former presidential candidate of the PDP in the 2023 election, said the presidency should be rotational among the 6 geopolitical zones of the country. In a memorandum to the Senate ad hoc committee on constitutional review, Alhaji Abubakar said he is proposing amendments to sections 131, 135(2) to be rotated. Talking about now?
That idea with what he said, for every politician, the first 2 years, somehow they want to work, and once they are approaching the 3rd year,
you're thinking of re-election.
In fact, it has gotten worse that they don't even wait for the 2nd year again. Since last year, 2023, politicians have been talking about 2027, and that's one of the most irritating topics you can ever talk about or read about. Even this year, we've had, if you see anything,
it's about 2027,
2027, and we are in 2024. You were elected in 2023 just last year, and you are now thinking about 2027, who succeed, who will win this zone, or you don't.
There's no re-election.
Also wants to leave a legacy. If they know that there is nothing like 2nd term again, you only have a single term of 6 years. Whatever you want to do with your name, whatever you want to do with the people, whatever development you want to bring, you just have to do it in this one single term. So if you look at what has been happening over the years, maybe, for example, if it's just a single term of 6 years, the only thing Wike will be saying is that Fubara should be impeached. He wouldn't say that he won't get 2nd term. And Fubara too will not be saying that I'm fighting, I want to take over the structure.
So this structure thing,
You know, and all of these things. So even godfatherism will also, maybe in one way or the other, will also reduce. Because at the end of the day, we will see that even those times, there won't be the next 6 years again to say that you want to reign on governance. Instead of
get some form of referendum from the ᴜᴜ saying that, look, so far there's no huge tension amongst the politicians. You just know, well, I've won, I have 6 years secure. They might not even bother with governance. They know it's just, well, you guys can go to hell. I can do whatever I want to do. I know 6 years secure tenure, and then we might not be able to check. You know, people talked about the midterm elections, even in the US and all of that, as a way of sending signals and reevaluating the performance of the government. So don't you think that Alhaji Atiku's proposal is good, or it's just another mere talk that might amount to nothing really?
I think I will give Waziri Adamawa some credit because age is no longer too much on his side. And he probably feels that if we do this arrangement, we might start from
his
notice.
And then he favors him.
And he can grab.
But how is going to scale? How is going to push that through?
But on a serious note, I think that is a very bad idea, and I'll tell you why. First and foremost, what they fear most in this country, with that idea passing in the Senate, is going to happen. The Southwest will start with the process, and then the current president will get 10 years because he has the financial war chest to lobby it through. That's one. Number two, now the reason why you are allowed to go back to the electorate
After your first 4 years.
after our first 4 years is for the electorate to reassess you. Now, when you remove the possibility of someone
Of a reassessment.
all guardrails are off. No, and in Africa where people don't care about legacy, he feels that that's an opportunity for him to loot. And
So 6 years, I'm not going back to you.
Not coming back to you.
Does the reassessment work?
That's another issue.
Do
Yeah.
people return
that's a different
based
issue.
on the reassessment?
That's a different issue. But the idea is what we're
Looking at, yeah.
And that's what, look at, like he cited the case of the US, for instance. The US have options, different buckets for different offices. The president is elected
4 years.
2 terms maximum for 4 years. Okay? Now, there are presidents in America who never got second terms. Of course, you know that Trump never won a second term. You know that George Bush Sr. never won a second term. But this is how it's interesting in America. Every senator is elected to a term of 6 years. While every House of Rep member is elected to a term of 2 years. So in every midterm election and every presidential cycle, House of Rep members are going back to their people.
Even before the presidential election.
Yes. In between.
In between.
Now, the reason why it is so is because senators represent their states. House members represent the people.
And they must always go back to the people.
They must always go back to the people to renew their mandates. You see that? Now when you bring it home, let's look at what is the political configuration in Africa as it stands and whether it has served the people well. Cameroon has got 7 years term, unlimited for the president. Paul Biya has been there. What has he achieved for Cameroon?
He's been there for.
I am saying that's even a longer term.
A longer term, 7 years, yeah.
It may come back, it may not come back. Egypt, after the constitutional amendment, I think in 2016, now runs 2 6-year term. Uganda,
12 years.
Yes,
12
12
years.
Uganda has been doing, I think, 5 or 6.
But the man has been there.
Or did it?
So it's not really about the years or the tenure or the
No matter how good or bad the law is or the practice is, it takes the quality of the individual,
the people now
who operate them to make it work.
So whether it is 4 years, 2 term, 6 years, single term, the people's commitment to nation building is the most important thing.
Has no written constitution.
And people are committed to nation building.
You know that when the prime minister is not doing well, there has to be an election. There's no way he can stay in power. Somehow they would trigger a mechanism. The United Kingdom has no written constitution. It functions very well.
Perfect.
When there was an attempt by Boris Johnson to get the Queen as the president to weigh in, you see what happened? She couldn't.
Because she knows her role.
Exactly.
And her powers.
Now, but somebody in Africa who is hungry for power will disregard the guardrails and move in. So we should be focusing on how we make what we have now work for us. As imperfect as it is, at least it holds the possibility of someone being able to lose if it doesn't deliver.
Yeah.
Unlike the 6-year term, where he has nothing to fear. After all, it's not coming back to you. There's nothing you can do to him.
The 4 years assessment, you're saying that the people goes back. Is it actually working? That's my point.
Because the reason right now,
because we've seen people spend their first 4 years doing nothing, and they still get the second.
They get re-elected.
As a legislator,
a particular governor is on my mind now.
You remember what happened? Remember what happened during COVID?
Yes.
Where there is this hospital in VI, where they said it's the best hospital.
First consultant or something.
That when they died, but does it mean that we don't need that hospital?
It has to exist.
You know this thing that looks like onion.
Yes.
It's white.
Garlic.
Not garlic, it's bigger than garlic.
Okay, the bigger one. Okay.
In my place, it's used to cure all kind of diseases. But my people said, let's imagine for a moment that it doesn't cure any disease. But fact that when you boil it on fire, you can drink the water, it will quench your taste.
Quench your taste, yeah. You see, at least it's still something. Okay. So well,
let that fear be there that they can come.
You understand? It's analogy is just that. Look, yes, you understand that. Look, our politicians are quote and unquote smart enough to still circumvent the process.
Yes.
So and get a second term. But at least the fact that there's something to checkmate them, you know, is enough for us to, you know, continue to say, okay, let's just hope that it will get better. Well, Political Roundtable Mainland 98.3 FM. It's time to open the phone lines 091 36 0000410 093 0000410 091 36 0000410. You can also drop your comments on our Facebook and YouTube platform. We're going to be so strict with time this evening so that we can, of course, take as many calls as possible. 1 minute for every caller. Please let's just be fast with our contributions this evening so that we can allow others also speak to the issue we have on the table. Yes, Rivers LG polls is done and dusted. 23 local government taken by the APP, of course, off the governor's choice, and those local government chairmen have all been sworn in. What's next for Iirsᴛ Wike and his people? And then, of course, the proposal from Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, the former vice president, saying that, look, let's do a single tenure of 6 years rotational presidency in Nigeria. What do you think? 091 36 0000410. Hello, good evening.
Hello, good evening.
Yeah, good evening.
Ajibola calling from the caller. Good evening, Mr. Ford.
Yes, Mr. Ajibola, please go on.
And Mr. Curtis, I really enjoyed the Mr. Curtis this evening. And it's quite been a very good night. And congratulations to Fubara. And I love what really happened in River State. Sincerely speaking, I feel like I'm a river. I'm extremely happy.
My mind tells me you are from Ekiti.
How do you know? I'm from Egypt, but I'm extremely happy about what happened in Rivers State.
Okay.
It's a point that for all to teach all our politicians a good lesson that you can't underestimate anybody. Just like what I love what happened to Wike, because he spit out a saliva. And he was the first person to still step on that saliva. He said you can't underrate a small boy when he has given him power.
He said it himself.
And that small boy now, and that small boy that disciplined you back to tell you that this statement was right. And that is good for all our political. The era of governmentalism should be in history in Nigerian politics if we are going to move forward. That's a good lesson for us.
Thank you, Ajibola.
Yes, sir.
All right. 091 36 0000410. Hello, good evening.
Hello, Paul. Good evening.
Good evening, sir.
My barrister, good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Lucky.
All right, Lucky.
I'm so happy for.
Where are you calling from, Lucky?
From Yanakbaja.
Yanakbaja, okay.
I'm so happy for what happened in Rivers State. And thank God you play. I don't know whether, like Wike himself, I don't know whether he listens to himself. Sometimes I just wonder the kind of people. See what you said. A governor is a court governor is small, he go deal with you. And you are still going there. Now he has deal with you squarely. Now the same man that said Rivers State is not like Lagos. You know why he said so? Because what in Lagos is that the person who wanted to restructure Lagos, that was our body. Understand? If our body will have stand on his ground as this guy do, Fubara do, or Basake do, Lagos will have been changed. That's what they are saying. Lagos is not like other states, because we are still having one governor from Lagos State for 9 hours today. That's why the people say Lagos is not Lagos, or Chu is not Lagos. This one is not Lagos. Just this.
Right.
So in fact, I'm so ashamed for Wike saying all these things on tape. You are still behaving like that. You know the man is small, but he go deal with you. You still go there, and he has deal with you.
All right. Thank you, Lucky. Olalekoni, sorry. How do we get Lagos out of the mouth of our politicians as a bad example for, godfatherism?
Just like Mr. Curtis said, people just wanted to, when they compare Lagos, if people say...
As a concerned Lagos, I'm asking that question. How
Lagos
do we...
is not a bad state. Lagos is a model state for...
So why is that when they talk about godfatherism, the first thing that comes to their mind is Lagos?
Well, sometimes when people talk about godfatherism, it's working in Lagos and it exists in Lagos. You
So you think it's working for Lagos?
Yes, it is. To a very large extent.
Okay.
If you still compare governance in Lagos
to other states,
Lagos is.
But there are people who think that look, if that godfatherism had not existed, Lagos State would have been a better state.
Some people also believe that it is the godfatherism that is helping. That the Lagos State model plan came or started from the Tinubu era, and it has been followed.
But Mr. Conti, do you think godfatherism is helping us in Lagos?
I disagree. But I'm saying that it's possible. I've said it. Some people believe that godfatherism has set Lagos back, and some section of people
say he has moved us forward.
So it's
a perception
like
issue,
Messi
really.
And Ronaldo
conversation.
You can never
agree on anything.
Yes. I will never support godfatherism. I believe that you can help elect someone to the office.
Yeah, like we have Obama campaigning for Biden and all these guys, and then now coming for Kamala. Yeah,
the Kamala campaign.
Yeah.
That in the next 29 days, Obama is going to barnstorm.
It's going to be eating this, the campaign trail.
Now, if Kamala is elected president, Obama is not going to be breathing hard.
I'm talking about structure.
And say that, look, I campaign for you to.
Can Obama talk about structure?
No, just like what he did. Because there are no structures in the. Look, the parties have their campaign structure.
Yeah.
But do you know the funny thing about the US? A sitting governor cannot even influence election.
Yeah.
For somebody to win.
That's where the system is.
That's where the system works. Because it's about your votes. You saw the last debate between the two vice president candidates,
yeah.
And then you saw the focus group that they were asked after the debate.
Yes.
Why did this issue have traction with you? What have you made up your mind? He said, yes, I'm going to make up my mind because
talking to the issues really.
Directly, I exist.
To what end?
Is it because he's the only one who has got the ideas about how a state can be run? He exists because he wants to keep perpetually benefiting from the system. Control the system. And that's why if you don't give people that you have given power the liberty to run their government, they're not going to do anything. People say Lagos is doing well. I can tell you that Lagos would have been doing 5 times better without all this so-called structure of godfathers.
But we are not sure.
Well, nobody is sure
of anything.
But we can only project, given what we have seen. Because if we free up some of these resources, they work better.
Maybe it will be better utilized.
We have also seen where resources are being freed up in other states, and it is still
and it's not working.
And let me tell you why. Because those states, and this is the most unfortunate situation in the country. Do you know that most of the states benchmark themselves against Lagos? Lagos that is not even in the real sense of the word.
Of course.
I took time to study the finances of Lagos and Rwanda. Rwanda is a country. It's got an armed forces. It has police.
Yes.
It has embassies in different parts of the world. Do you realize that Lagos earns more money than Rwanda?
Yes.
The economy of Lagos, yes.
And Rwanda has a population that is big, the land area that is bigger than Lagos.
Lagos, yeah.
But go and look at the fund utilization, resources utilization
in Rwanda compared to Lagos.
Yes. People could argue about the terrain. What terrain? Go to Netherlands and go and see their terrain and see how they have developed it.
And majorly water, yeah.
Let's not
argue on that.
Take the time of
all right. It's a conversation for another day. 09136000410. Good evening.
A very good evening to the family in the studio.
Good evening, Prince Wise.
How are you all?
Fine.
Are you back from Port
Let me
Harcourt?
start with Lagos. I'm in Lagos. I follow Port Harcourt to the fullest.
Okay.
And I know what's going on.
From Lagos.
Let me just start from Lagos. Lagos is moving forward. 25-year development in education. That's 1999. Lagos is working. That's everybody is trooping to Lagos. Those when you talk politically, it is not Lagos. This is not Lagos.
All right.
Because they are talking politics.
Okay, let's talk about Rivers State now, Prince Wise. We'll talk about Lagos later. Yes.
So nobody is disgracing Lagos. And when you talk of Port Harcourt, election of local government is not a news to me. Look at the one in Benue. The governor party win the other candidate. He won Rifa. The governor win the this. They already wrote all these things. It's not being special for us that somebody that bought a race. Now, so we are talking about this governor will contest under APP come 2027. And
he has not said he's contesting under APP. He even said he's the biggest loser because his party, the PDP, is not really participating.
As of today,
yes,
Wike have not lost anything in Rivers State. 2027, Wike can become a senator from Rivers State. So when you talk of politics, this governor today are still inexperienced. When you won a local government election 23-0, it means it's written somewhere.
By Prince Wise, are you aware that in other states that's what has been happening?
His Lagos results were not written.
Yes.
Yes. I'm hearing you.
Prince Wise, Prince Wise, are you aware that in other states the same thing has been happening? Even in Lagos, Mr. Prince Wise, are you going to say in good conscience that even in Lagos results are not being written?
See,
that is why federal elections conduct all the elections in Nigeria. If federal conduct elections,
the federal says, will it change anything from what we are seeing with the federal?
All right.
No,
it's a system already.
Excuse me. If national conduct no.
Okay.
It's a system already.
I think we lost the call. I need to read. Hello, good evening. So after this call, just read the messages we have.
Good evening. The general, good evening.
Good evening.
Barrister, good evening, sir.
Good evening. How are you?
Yes, my name is Samuel, calling you from Ikeja. His appointment, that appointment that he gave to him as a minister, make Wike irrelevant in our politics today. Where is Fᴏᴜ that was shouting during Buhari government? Where is Fᴏᴜ? When last did you hear from Fᴏᴜ? So you see, these people, when they are in power, they use the resources of the people, the government, to be making noise in the media. You understand? Look at what is happening, and we should not even expect anything that the president is going to say anything. He will not say anything. It's the same thing we are having back and forth with the NNPC and the Dangote. That the president keep quiet up to today. He did not even utter a word. So I'm not expecting anything from him because he's just a politician that know about only himself.
All
you
right.
understand?
Thank you,
He is not
Samuel.
going to address anything.
All right.
So we will continue with this drama, and I like the way the governor is fighting. Let him continue to let.
All right. That will be the last call for the evening. We have a backlog of a lot of messages to deal with. Sorry for those that have been trying to also call in. We just have to balance the calls with the messages we have on Facebook. We have Abdurrafiu Alabalakwe. We're saying, I salute you all, my big eggs, and many thanks for weekend political tonic. Alabalakwe from Sabo Ijewoniba Rivers State political hiccups and show of shame. Look at our judiciary now becomes laughing stock and tool for the political class, particularly the ISB. That, well, allegedly, what happens in Rivers, especially what Governor Fubara did by disobeying court order, is huge embarrassment and slap to our justice system. Yes, former Governor Wike has his flaws, but it's not Wike that took the matter to court. Instead, it's the opposition party APC that went to the federal court. Well, Abdurrafiu Alabakwe, you know that, look, is the hand of Jacob and the Lagos.
No, they all cried in the night.
And then the baby dies. Didn't you know that it's the hog that cried that killed the baby? All right, thank you, Abdurrafiu Alabalakwe from Sabo Ijewoniba. Well, we have Sulaiman Yusuf who is saying, here we go again. Atodaka Samuel is saying, good evening, sirs. On River State election, only time will tell. The only thing that is known is that the governor doesn't have the power to supervise and control election. Take note, the reason for the legal wahala was more of the process of the contestants of the APP who carried their franchise from PDP to APP. Was there any primary in APP? I already know the actual principle of APP in River State. Well, I'll try to really put that together. But thank you so much for that message. We have Azan Sulaiman Ayola. We saying, evening, sirs, this week itself, shall him be God ni? That's the question. He's not God and he can't be God. We have been a poll. We say, please, I want to know if Wike have right to go to court on this issue. Wike go to court. Well, he might not go to court himself, but there's enough structure that can go to court on his behalf. We have Fabari Bumi Osimora, who is just saluting us and asking about our morale. Osimora is calling, he said, sending messages from the 9th Brigade military barracks in Ikeja cantonment. Prince Leo Zoma, good evening all. Personally, I think that the outcome of the local government election has pointed to the fact that the River State people are tired with Wike's shenanigans and overbearing influence. It's equally going to reshape the 2027 general election. because it has revealed that the power resides on the people. Wike should lick his wounds, and forever keep quiet. And nobody should call Fubara an ingrate. Please, Leo Zoma from Isolo, Lagos. We have Patrick Uzbi, as always, saying Nigeria indeed belongs to two political emperors, President Tinubu and ex-governor. No. It's not, it doesn't. It belongs to Nigerians, actually. Well, instead of Wike and his postal supporters participating in local elections to show their strength and popularity against Fubara, they were rather protesting at their party offices and streets.
When has boycott ever destroyed an election?
It will still hold. Yeah. But by Curtis, before I continue reading the messages and probably taking one or two more calls, should we continue to conduct these local government elections? Because the pattern we are seeing is just a complete waste of time.
Complete waste of resources.
Resources and time.
Let me tell you what the problem is here.
Yes.
It wasn't until recently that the Supreme Court affirmed the constitutional provision that the local government is indeed
exists
a level of government in the country. The attitude of the governors had always been that the local government shouldn't be a system of government on its own.
Yes.
There should be vassal states
of the state government.
And that the federal government cannot create. But you see, you don't prefer what does not exist. You prefer or you work, you can have your preference. That's what I mean.
But you work with what already exists.
And don't forget, we have a constitution that listed 774
local governments. So it means they exist constitutionally.
And the only way you can remove them is to amend, and then see a thickening up in conduct of local government election is because the governors still don't want the funds to be withheld based on the judgment of the Supreme Court. Now, do we need the local government system? Yes, because they are closer
to the people.
And most of the responsibilities that the states have assumed are not state responsibilities.
Yeah, local government.
In fact, the former British Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher argued that states are artificial constructs because states are made up of communities, and communities are where you find the local.
And that's where the government is closest to them.
Now, if you look at our constitution carefully, you will see that the administration of markets, cemeteries, and all, even drainage system,
even the garages,
tenement rates.
But most of the states have taken it over.
Because all they want is just the money. Just the money. So now, how do we then secure the conduct of election? Local government. There are those who have argued that only the federal INEC can do it. I don't think so, because even the federal INEC, what have they really done in discharging their own responsibility? Like we have argued in this place before, I think it takes the quality of human beings to get things done rightly. Senator Elizabeth Warren from Massachusetts says personnel is quality. I mean, personnel is policy. If you want to have quality policy, get quality men. You understand? And if you have quality men, because of their reputation, their image, and
so they push through with the policy.
And that's exactly what's happening to our institutions as well.
You see why? Look, in this studio we say the conduct of our elections by professors
has not even changed anything.
Objectify what is happening in the universities, because you have people who were picked for their level of education and supposedly for their character,
and with the expectation that they are going to be above board, do the right thing, and then they become a problem to even the process. Well, let's deal with
because our local government elections is becoming a mess.
Because I think that
it has always been a mess.
Because it's almost like an appointment, really. We know in Benue it has happened. Before Rivers State, we had 10 local government elections conducted, and the same thing, the same pattern was seen.
The only time we've seen where an opposition won, maybe
in Kaduna State under Rufai,
just one. That was the only time.
So why because I'm sure that the state,
and that was electronic voting. If you recall.
Oh yeah.
Adopted.
But Mr. Curtis, this SEC arrangement, they have commission officers. They have structure, they are funded, we print ballot papers, we provide for logistics, and at the end of the day, we know that these results are clearly manufactured results.
I know a state that didn't print, I think 2 states, I didn't print ballot.
So what were they doing?
You didn't see, was it a southern state, one of the southeast states,
the
man just came with a sheet of paper and announced. You didn't see the video like 2 weeks ago. No ballot paper.
I'm not anything can happen really.
Is that strange?
In fact, I don't want to mention a particular state.
My brother,
2 weeks ago, their election was no ballot paper.
No ballot paper.
I'm serious. I was in the state a week after.
The APC National Convention that produced the presidential candidate did not have ballot paper. You were given a piece of paper signed by the then governor of Kebbi State, Atiku Bagudu, and then you write whoever you want.
Just write there.
And if you cannot write,
and then how do you?
It wasn't even a primary election.
No, in fact, when we raised we
so there was no ballot paper to print and really and even have like serial numbers and what have you. Paper to write.
No, it was just the
presidential primary of a major political party.
You didn't watch it. Bola Tinubu. Ahmed Tinubu. Asiwaju Tinubu. Just right. Yes, sir. It was a delicate system.
Oh my goodness. So we have Káyọ̀dé Ọlọ́nà that we say Wike has begun to reap what he sowed in days of disrespecting his Oga, ex-governor Rotimi Amaechi. He must begin to see himself as a smarter leg. Weak intrigue master, a loser, precisely busy, but well, too many words. But thank you so much, Káyọ̀dé Ọlọ́nà. We have Larry Olakomi saying, well, as all I know is that our politicians across political divides are 6.5 dozen, and people that are sympathetic to them need to be careful, because when the table turns, where would they put their faces? Alhaji Atiku, Kwankwanso, Peter Obi have a lot to contend with in terms of Mr. President, who is a strategist. Okay, we have Joy Odimamnem. We say, good evening, gentlemen in the studio. Kudos to Fubara, Man in Bijo. At least the lion's tail has been cut off and soon it will be tamed for life. Well, we have, yes.
Well, I think what some listeners don't understand is that all of us sitting in this studio, we have a history, we have pedigree. We have been, I think I can speak for all of us here, that we have been consistent as far as our principles are concerned.
On these political issues.
What we have been saying is that whoever has been elected should be allowed to govern.
At least he was elected.
So, and I don't see that table turning tomorrow by saying that. I have always fought for the weaker man.
And we'll never have the table where somebody elected is not allowed to function and will not have to support it.
Yes.
The table will never turn to that level.
No, it's not going to happen.
It's not going to happen here, at least on this platform. We have Kehinde Okpe. We say Okpe Kehinde from Ijegun. Good evening, sir, in the studio. On Rivers State election, I'm worried on the peoples of Rivers State, not the weekend, neither at Fubara, because these two they are not infantile. These two politicians are not fighting for Rivers State people, but their own interests. I'm waiting for the court judgment. Maybe the local government election held will be nullified. I urge Fubara to call Wike and settle their issue. Okay.
Even if that election is nullified 10 times,
they will do it again.
Wike's candidate will not
win, because they will still do it. They have to still do it in Rivers State, and they see the Rivers State independent. They will still do it. Josh. We have Joshua Anduaba. We saying, but wait, Pastor, why is it that the same thing is happening in Benue? And I think SGF should be more powerful than the minister. Yet, it's not as bad as it is in Rivers. He's talking about George Akume and the governor.
The SGF is no more powerful than the minister of FCT. He doesn't have his kind of money. Yes. That's one. Two, they have different personalities in terms of temperament.
And the way they act out.
The SGF is not ready to rock the entire boat.
Does it quietly.
The minister's own is, if it's not my way, it is the highway.
And he does it in a very destructive manner.
Look at the man. The minister has called more press conferences than the president of the country.
Of course, yes. We have Ibrahim Fadare. We say money, and structure. That all Nigerian political ecosystem is all about. Dayo Dada is saying, good evening, crew. Watching this your president launched the approval of 40 houses for judges platform. There are things that cannot rules and contribute to these issues. But thank you so much, Dayo Dada. And to that, we have Ian in Chibundu Obata. We're saying, good evening, political roundtable. The CGN is right about the reforms sanctioning erring judges, lawyers, etc. It has started or demonstrated from Imo State case at the Supreme Court, where fourth became one. The case in favoring Opus Odima, presided by Justice Ikereekun, is very right. Well, I think he's just being sarcastic here. We have Christopher F. Young saying, good evening, everyone. You guys are doing a wonderful job and your analysis. God bless you all. Wike still believe that he is still a governor. What he did since 2015 as governor is still doing it. Such a such as hiring crowd to speak and the clap for him. I love what the present state governor of Rivers State is doing. That's very good and wise strategy for the judiciary. In fact, for democracies to strive continuously in Nigeria, judicial, INEC and police must be independent without president or presidency intervention. That's and James Ogbonna, sorry. Okay, yeah, you have a short message. Distinguished men in the studio, I celebrate you credibly. I now see the power of a sitting governor. Now I know that the local government elections are just mere routine for APP to have won all the LGAs. I celebrate Governor Fubara massively, but Scottish, could it be because the PDP chose not to participate? What's next for Governor Fubara now being a PFP governor? I don't understand what PFP is, okay, but pushing LGA chairman to contest in another party, James Ogbonna from Oshodi. Well, that's the number of messages we can take this evening. But Curtis, in 30 seconds, your final take on the show this evening.
Power is transient. When you have it, make the best out of it for the people.
Okay. Thank you so much, Barrister Curtis, for your brilliant submissions this evening. Power is transient. When you have it, make it count for the people. Thank you so much for being a part of the show this evening. Olalekoni, your final take.
I want to advise His Excellency Nyesom Wike to think about the people, even if not for any reason. It should allow governance to take place in Rivers State. And also, Governor Fubara should also focus on the people and ensure that the mandate given to him by the people, not by Wike, should also work for the people. Very important.
All right, thank you so much, Olalekoni. Well, Governor Fubara, let the mandate of the people work for the people. And we also hope that Mr. Nyesom Wike will back down, focus on his Abuja, hopefully enjoy himself, re-strategize for 2027. Let peace reign in Rivers State. My name is Said Foha. This is where we draw the curtains on the show this evening. It's been an interesting ride. To all the callers, we thank you. Let's do this again next week.